Hi there, happy painters. It's been a little while. We are going to try this little landscape with a limited palette. We'll just use purple, blue, and white. And we're starting with a blank canvas, which that's no problem for this painting. We've got our paint here, our purple, blue, and white. And we've got our paint brushes, our water cup, and our paper towel. And let's see, the first thing we want to do is kind of establish a horizon line. And there's a sense of some little rolling hills here. So we'll take this middle-sized brush, we'll mix a little blue and white and purple together to get a light color here. Kind of a light violet color, just to kind of get us started. And we're just going to come in here and create a couple of hills like so. And from there we'll start working on our sky. So the first thing is just to take your bigger brush, and even though it seems kind of silly to paint white on white, we're just going to put some white paint right here where we want our big moon to be. And can't see what I'm doing there, can you? Painting white on white. But now from there, we're going to start slowly incorporating some color in. And we'll take again, that kind of violet-y color, maybe a little more purple in it, a little more blue. And just start kind of coming out around your circle here. And don't worry if your circle is ish, that's okay. We can come back and make it rounder later, but just generally kind of round works for now. And as we come out, we'll keep going in that circular pattern, but we'll start darkening up the sky. So I've added quite a bit of purple and blue into that, and it's going to be considerably darker now. And just get a nice big arm motion going there. Makes it easier to get round when your whole arm is involved, not just your wrist. And this is layer one. We'll make it prettier. We're just kind of getting some color down. So now we want to keep darkening. So I'll keep adding more purple and blue into that mix that I had. And that's a little darker. Right off the edge of the canvas there. And we like to paint the edge, so we'll drag that color all the way up. And keep working in a circle. That's kind of roundish. It's a little off, but I'll fix it. It'll get fixed. Okay, so more purple, more blue. And we'll just keep working this around. I like to continue that idea of the circle, though, all the way out. Now, when I come to my horizon, it's okay to just take that dark paint and come right up next to that. Just keep working this in there. We'll come back with the smaller brush in a little bit and do more defined rings. All right. We did get some pretty snow last week. That was kind of nice since we don't always get that in Oklahoma. I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. There's a good reason to light the fireplace and stay inside. All right, so yeah, just lots of purple and blue at this point. You can have some of it more towards the blue and then go back to the purple. You can play with getting that variety of purples and blues that is nice. But that fills in our sky. That's the starter coat, but it's not the finisher coat. Okay, so now I'll go back to the middle-sized brush and start playing with maybe exaggerating some of those rings around the moon. So I'll pick up a much lighter version now and just start kind of, oh, there we go. Now I can see it. So I can do some little short choppy brush strokes instead of it being a complete circle. And I may even try painting right-handed. Let's see what happens here. Let's see. Back to lefty. I'm definitely a lefty. So I just keep adding in that lighter color, just trying to get that whole glow of the moon thing going on. And I can also come back with a darker mix and kind of come back in here around inside the lighter area, so we can work both directions, light to dark, dark to light. You can do this with really defined brush strokes, more of a Van Gogh approach, where you really lay that in there and just let it do its thing. Or you can blend it out more, get a softer look. I kind of like to see the brush strokes. Now then, for the moon itself, I'll rinse out my brush, go back to that plain white, and now I can kind of focus on getting more of a round thing going on. That's a little rounder. Now I've drug some purple in there, but I think that's okay. It's a light tint of purple. That doesn't hurt to have that inside the moon. And then pull some more little short choppy bright rings out here. And eventually it starts to build up. So it just takes a little playing with it to get the look you're going for. We might tone that down a little bit with some blue, violet mix. We kind of want to get the sky the way we want it, though, before we go on to the trees, because the trees go on top of the sky. So we want to play with this till we're happy. So I'm going back to my bigger brush, and I will come back into my darker colors now. But a little bit of white in there. I want to be able to see it. Okay, well, picking up a little more white. All right, so now I can kind of see, and I'm using a bigger brush stroke, kind of a flat brush stroke instead of a narrow one. And that kind of continues with those rings. And then I'll come back into the dark, just purple and blue. And get that going in here too. And then you just kind of sit back and look at it and say, okay, where do I need to add more light, add more dark? see the big picture when you get a little distance. Might want a little bit of this light over here on this side. If I can pick up enough to, there we go. Just pull a little bit of that over there. I think that works. I think we've got a good moon glow going on. All right, so now we're going to think about our little trees. So for the trees, I want to use the middle brush. Cleaned it out. And we're going to be kind of pressing into the canvas with the flat bristles. So if you want to kind of open up the bristles by pushing it down, you want to get something that's a little more open. And I'll start with plain white. And I want to decide, where do my trees go? So if I decide that maybe the top of a tree goes about right here, I'll just do a little dot. And then I want to think about the triangle that it's going to make. It's going to come down into the snow, but for right now I'm just going to decide that that's the basic shape of my tree. It's better to start with your trees being maybe a little bit on the narrow side, because you can always fluff them out. If you start too wide, then they grow too fast. So we'll stick with a narrow kind of a tree and then decide if we want to bush it out a little more. So now with just some plain white, I'm going to just kind of start dotting in. There's the trunk, if you will. And now I will just start, and my purple's still wet. If you wait until the background's dry, you won't get as much mixing, but I kind of like that mixing. I think that's going to work. So I'm going to embrace that idea, and I'm just thinking that I want this to come back in this pattern right down to those little dots, and I'm just stippling, just pushing down, not really making a brush stroke, just a dab and lift, dab and lift. Okay, so now he wants to be a little fuller on this side. There we go. And then this is where taking your smaller brush, little baby brush, and deciding every once in a while you might want to have a branch that comes out beyond the main form of the tree. So let's just pull a few little branches out, and I'm dabbing. Kind of keep it light. I don't have to fill in every bit of it. A little bit of the dark purple background showing through is nice. Although if we get it too white, we can always stipple the dark back in. So once again, acrylic is very forgiving. I'll give this a little point here with the smaller brush. I can get a more delicate tree top with this little bitty brush. And pull out some little branches. All right, that's looking tree-ish. Pulling this out here. And we want the tree to come into the snow, so I will use a purple mix. I'll add a little bit of purple to the white so that when I do put the base of this tree down into the snowbank, I can see it. I don't want white paint on white canvas. So just having a little tint of that purple blue in there helps define the base of the tree. That's probably enough. Okay, so when I sit back and look at it, it's like, oh, I need an extra little branch over here, maybe over here. All right. Is he leaning a little? He might be leaning a little. So now we'll try another tree. That's coat one. We'll come back after it's a little drier and add some more white to it. But that can be the first layer. So now we'll go back to deciding where the next tree goes. So he's maybe about right here and then comes down here. That's a good guesstimate. And we do the same thing, just that fill in. Dab, dab, dab. Start thinking about little branches. It's definitely picking up the wet purple in the background, but again, no big deal. All right, let me see where I want to fill you in a little more. And since he is a little bit thin, I can continue kind of pulling it out, make it a little thicker form. Trying to fill in. And then with that same color, pull this down into the snow. Okay, so now we'll use the little brush again for some more delicate little branches coming out. All right, that's a good base. We'll come back, do more to it. All right, so now we move on to tree number 3. We're kind of working from the bigger to back to the smaller ones. So we'll put a third one maybe. We want them to vary in height. We'll put him about right here. And he's going to come down about like that. If I get my center line kind of nice and standing up, then maybe my tree won't lean. Or maybe the wind has been blowing and they're not quite upright. In Oklahoma, that would be very true. I see lots of trees that lean. And he gets to come down into the snow a little bit too. Okay. So, back to baby brush and some white paint and just a few little branches that come out from the main tree shape. Once this is dry, when we put a second coat of white on, it'll be a bright white, and this kind of tinted white will make a nice shadow color. Okay, maybe just a little more of a tippy top. That works. And then I think I'll use the smaller brush to make the other trees because they are littler versions. And we're going to say this one, he's about right here. He's back on the horizon. He's a little guy. And he can kind of sit right there on the horizon. All right. And then we've got a little bitty one right here. Little bitty guy. Have to be careful with adding extra branches because he'll get away from us. There, that's enough little extra branches. And we could sneak one in right here that's on the horizon. We'll sneak in a little one right here. There we go. All right. So that is the basis for the trees. And like I said, once this is drier, we'll work in this field of snow. And then when we come back, we can add in some bright white to get those to show up a little better. So now, making our snow, we want to add quite a bit of purple and blue to it. Just because the snow is white, but it would reflect the colors around it. In this case, we're using a lot of purple and blue. So I'll start just by picking up, I washed out my big brush. There may be a little bit of purple and blue left in it, but I just want to get some paint on the canvas, mostly just white. And then I'll blend in the other colors. I'm just kind of working around the little, of course I can paint that. I don't need to worry. I can kind of stipple the bases of these trees back on top of my snow. So I just want to get the surface nice and wet with white so the purple and blue blend nicely with it. Now right there, it grabbed some of my paint in the brush, but that doesn't hurt. Okay, so now I'll go in without rinsing out my brush. I want a very light tint of this color, something like that. And I want to start thinking about the shadow under the tree, and maybe we'll pull another little hill in here. And then I'll continue this one. He can kind of come up under this tree. We're trying to get a little shadow in our snow. So by having that wet white on there, it just, blends really nicely without your color getting too dark. So if it does get too dark though, which I don't think that is, but I'm going to just go ahead and dip it into the white, grab some white because it's going to blend with that really nicely. And I'll do the same thing, grab some white and come back underneath this little dip or hill. Maybe I want a little extra blue. I feel like I've got too much purple. Let's try a little blue to that. Yeah, I like the blue in there. And I don't want to tint everything. I want some of it to still be white. I'm getting a little heavy with the color, but go back to white. Go back to white. Big brush stroke. I like the blue. I just feel like I need some blue in there, but I have to be careful and mix it with a lot of white so that it doesn't overwhelm, but a little blue. Maybe that's too much blue. That's the good thing about acrylic, though. I can keep playing with it till I get a happy place. Oh, that's kind of dark. Okay, now I rinse out my brush since I've got a lot of color in there. And go to more plain white. If I feel like I got that too dark, it's so easy to drag some white back through it and soften it back in. now for the little trees on the horizon, I'll switch to the middle brush. We'll get a little color back there. And maybe a little white through here. And maybe even a little bit right there. So this is with the smaller brush, you can kind of get a little more refined in some of your shadow and light. As long as, whoa, that was a big drip. As long as the paint's wet, the white's going to just absorb into the color. If you wanted bright white, you might need to wait till it dries. But that definitely gives us the feel of some snowy little rolling hills. Oh, I know. I see what I'm leaving out here. I kind of want this to dip down like that with a little color. Yeah, go back and forth here. Something like that. That shadow can... And now we should be able to come back to our first tree we did with some plain white and that middle brush. And when we dab on this time, we're going to see a brighter white with the second coat. And you can decide how much bright you want. I'm leaving this paint pretty thick and it's building up real texture, which is kind of nice for this painting. Let's see. So it's just a matter of how much light does your tree need. Softening that back in. But you can see the difference in this one and that one. We've got a lot more white now, which is nice. Just keep dabbing. This is a fairly easy way to build up believable little winter trees. And then these little bitty guys in the background. Probably ought to switch to the smaller brush since that's what we used. Ooh, that was a bunch of paint. Let's see, pull that out here a little bit. And like I said, if you got too much white in your tree, you could always go back and do your blue-purple mix that's darker. Let's see if I can get a little purple in there. I'm just using, whoa, that was definitely more purple. Let's see, something about like that, just a blue-violet. And you can dab back into the tree to create shadow. The background works great for shadow if you leave some of it showing, but if you get all happy with your dabs and it loses all of its shadow, we can put it back in with this adding the dark in. So once again, you can work both ways. Dark to light and light to dark. It doesn't hurt anything to do that, does it? This one still has quite a bit of purple showing though, so I may not need to do it. Oops. Of course, you can get too much of the dark, and that's okay, because we know we can go lighter. So if I want to add more white back in, I can. They are covered in snow after all. He looks like he's leaning a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to tell while you're painting it. Okay, so that means really we just have some stars to put in our sky. And I'll show you this cute little technique with the wooden end of the brush. So I'm taking the smaller brush and I'm just going to dip it in the plain white paint. Oops, that's quite a bit. Make a dab. I'm going to use my pinky as a support. Make a little dab and then pull out in 5 points and you get a happy little star. Let's try that again. Dab and then pull out from the center 5 times. Happy little star. I thought this was such a clever way to do this when I saw it done. You could try it with the bristles, but I feel like I have more control with the wooden end. And the other thing is that you can also just have some little that aren't twinkly. Maybe they're farther away. Oops. Gotta have paint. And so we have a starry sky on our winter night. Oh, a little more paint. There we go. We probably need one more, maybe right here. There we go. And then just some little, of course this could be snow too, I guess. I was thinking stars, but you could definitely have it be snow. And that is a happy little winter painting just using 3 colors. I hope that you enjoy it. I know you get to stop the video and take your time. That was probably pretty fast, but I hope that you enjoy painting that, and we will be painting again together soon, I hope. Thanks again.